I want to loop back to the topic of homelessness. The city has seen a record number of encampments being removed, but many people return to the streets because of limited shelters and housing options. And some people are refusing service altogether. Do you believe encampment removals are an effective strategy? If not, what sort of approach should the city take instead? Ms. Wilson, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so we know what works, right? During the pandemic, there was a program called Just Care, where several nonprofits teamed up, and they resolved encampments by getting people into emergency housing and shelter with the support that they need to be successful there. That program wound down due to loss of funding, but it was continued by the state in their right-of-way program, which resolved encampments on state highway land. And we know that this works, right? So you can resolve an encampment and actually get people inside instead of merely pushing them around the city, which is exactly what our current mayor is doing. And now the city is not using that model. And actually, the Downtown Seattle Association is starting to explore doing that model themselves. And we really need to scale that up because that is what works. Right now, we have the Seattle Times just reported on it today, right? Seattle residents are reporting more encampments than ever before, 50,000 in the first 8 months of this year. I'm talking to people around the city, and they know. They say, okay, there's an encampment in my park. I don't like it. The city's going to sweep it next week, and I know they're going to be back the week after. So what we're doing now is not working. We need to be actually getting people inside, and that means massively expanding our emergency housing and shelter, something which the current mayor has put no focus on. And in fact, he's obstructed it. There's a tiny house village, Brighton Tiny House Village, that Nicholsville has been trying to open for 3 years, and our current mayor has done nothing but put obstacles in its way.
Mr. Harrell?
Her facts are baseless. Number one, you have to look at, first of all, let's acknowledge the gravity of the problem. It is a huge problem. Under our administration, we've opened 2,000 emergency units. We have 1,000 underway, but I got to make this clear. When 100% of all city-funded shelters are enhanced shelters, you have to give them supporting. I don't want to stick someone in a tent or a tiny home and not give them wraparound services. I'm playing what we call the long game for their lives to shelter them, number one. Number two, if you look at the people that are 50%, we have a 50% increase in the people we've taken out of shelter and put them in housing. That's a huge increase. That's way above the national average and the county average. If you look at in 2023, we had 2,204 accepted shelter referrals, about a similar number the year after. Now, make no mistake about this. When I said 70% of the people in Seattle who are unhoused are not coming from the city. They're coming from elsewhere. I've been working on these issues. My wife, too, is former CEO of United Way in Health and Human Services space. We've been working on this issue a long time. I said earlier that in America, we almost have 1 million people that are homeless. This is tough work, and it's easy to be on the sideline and criticize. Her plan for 4,000 emergency shelter units, it cannot be funded. And by the way, there's absolutely no plan for that. She will never talk about how much that will cost. So we will do everything humanly possible, leading with empathy, trying to shelter people, and it's offensive to think that I would do this in an inhumane way. And I must say this, too. 80% of the encampments have been removed from parks.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. Ms. Wilson, I want to ask you about that. How would you fund creating 4,000 new units of emergency housing in 4 years? And in addition, you have said that one of the ideas is to take some affordable housing units. A lot of studio apartments, one-bedrooms are vacant right now. Yeah. And you have talked about making those available to people who are homeless. Mm-hmm. So a twofold question: how do you respond to the funding of the 4,000 units? And also, how would you fund the other option?
Sure. So, and that is part of the 4,000 units, to be clear. So when I'm thinking about 4,000 units, and also to be clear, the reason I'm talking about 4,000 units is because that is what we need, right? And we need to start talking about what we need to actually end unsheltered homelessness in Seattle, because right now it feels like we've given up. So the funding is, so there's going to be a portion of this, probably about 1,000 units, I envision being tiny houses and micro-modular shelter, which is the kind of shelter that unsheltered homeless folks eagerly ask for, right? This works. And then, yes, we have large vacancies across the affordable housing sector, also in MFTE units. And so I envision the city buying down the rents in those units so that we can get people inside. This is going to be a combination of using existing funding differently and seeking new funding locally and seeking new funding from the state level. So it's going to be a mixture of funding sources.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Harrell, do you have a response to that?
there's no price. There's no price. The only way that can be achieved, and we would love to do that, by the way, tiny homes, we just invested in 100 tiny homes. That was $6 million. The only way is to take money from affordable housing. And we're focusing in on the teacher and the social worker and the barista to make sure they could live here. There's no funding for that. The regional approach. Remember, 85% of all those tiny homes in the county are in Seattle. 63% of all the shelter in the county are in Seattle. We are trying to do our share, but I'm not getting the participation from the other cities. They put in zero on this regional approach, and that's why I say that the solution to homelessness is a true regional approach that we haven't yet achieved. But just last week, I made a motion for that organization to become regional, and that's the work we're going to do to solve homelessness.
Thank you.